Yeah, hello?
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Yeah, nothing much. Hold up. Just gotta change my audio settings because it's coming through my headphones, which I do not want.
Yeah, no problem. You're gonna take the camera and the audio from my stream, right?
What was that again? Sorry?
You're planning on taking the camera and audio from my stream for this?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Should I get rid of the chat, or do you care?
Well, you probably throw the to the side,
Yeah.
and you can have chat on screen. That's all good.
Okay, cool.
I just want your beautiful face as much as possible in it.
Gotcha. Well, I'm here.
Alrighty, can you give me a good audio test just to tell me about your samurai katana collection?
Yeah, testing 1, 2, 3. 3 is how many beautiful samurai blades I have. They are all very sharp and very shiny, and they're folded over 1,000 times with true Japanese Nippon steel. They're some of the most deadly weapons known to man. They are the most efficient. Are you good?
Yeah, that should do.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll go over basically what I went on the email. So basically, we'll have just a general conversation about a couple of questions and whatnot. Roughly go an hour or so. And then so I'll upload the full thing onto my channel, and I assume you'll probably do something with it as well. And what will go to air on the radio station will just be basically a couple of segments from it, from whether we talk about certain thing.
Okay. Are you allowed to say what? This is like a college radio thing, or what are you allowed to say, or?
Yeah, basically. It's like it's a university radio station. Would you rather I push to talk or?
No, just I'll hear everything. It's all good.
Awesome.
For
Alrighty, cool.
language, what like PG-13 or like nothing or no bad words?
If you, I don't know how passionately you might feel about some of the questions, so you can sort of go on in different segments. Because like hell, we can have one segment that can be like PG-13, and another one might be like MA or whatever.
Okay, I'll try to keep everything age friendly. Okay.
Okay, cool. Anyway, so alrighty, we'll get started. And alrighty, welcome everyone. This is Red Suit Interview, and we are joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Stephen Bonnell, otherwise known as Destiny. So thank you, Destiny, for doing this for me. This would be great.
Hey, what's up? Thanks for having me.
No problem. So for those who sort of don't know who you are, because in Australia there's a little known fact that we have absolutely no internet. Like I'm speaking to you right now on a cup and a string. So can you please give sort of a brief introduction on sort of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm a Twitch.tv streamer. I've been doing it for about 8 or 9 years. Right now, you know me because I either play a lot of video games or because I do political content. That's about like half and half of what I do at the moment.
Awesome. So how did you initially get started into streaming?
A long time ago. Hold on, let me just make something of mine. Basically, a long time ago, I used to play a lot of video games. I mean, I still play a lot of video games, but I did it at high school with a bunch of friends, and we all had a good time. It was funny stuff. And around this time, I had a friend, Kyle, I think, recommended me to try to get into streaming. I don't know if he recommended it directly, but he pointed me to some people that did it, and I thought it'd be fun to try it. So I kind of did it a little bit in the early days as like a for fun thing, and then I seemed to grow in viewership, and it kind of just grew from there.
Awesome. So what about it exactly initially did it interest you? Was it just purely being able to play games and sort of monetize that?
I think the social aspect was a big thing. The monetization was not like a big thing at all in the early days until I switched over and started doing it full time, which was I think about a year into it. But it was more just the idea of like playing a lot of games and then making people laugh and do that kind of stuff. It's something that I've always kind of been good at.
Okay. And like I'm not too sure how many questions also I must point out there, because I know we're on stream and whatnot, and there might be a couple of questions that like obviously those two there that a lot of people have already heard and whatnot. So I apologize in advance. I probably should have done the start. But anyway, there might be a couple of new ones or a couple of old ones you've already gone through. So,
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Anyway, so and you've also talked about sort of like you say you're sort of a unique case when it comes to streaming, in terms of like how you deal with sort of criticism in the general community. And so in that case, so what for yourself is the hardest part of streaming?
The hardest part of streaming, I mean, there's a lot of hardest parts. I guess it depends on the kind of person you are. I guess for me, the hardest part is probably maintaining like a consistent schedule, as dumb as that is. Dealing with, especially when I do the political content, dealing with all of the massive amounts of hate you can get online can be pretty difficult when it bleeds over into real world stuff. People calling the police and the FBI and whatnot to go to your house gets pretty rough, but I mean, otherwise, I enjoy it very much. I mean, I consider myself very lucky to have this job. You know, I've got hard things that I do, but it's all stuff that I deal with. You know, maintaining email relationships with sponsors and reaching out to collaborate with people, and finding content for stream and whatnot. So,
okay, And so, how many years have you been streaming? Was it been about 10 now? Or
Almost. I think I started in 2010, early or mid 2010, and we're coming to the end of 2018 now. So I'd say almost 9 years.
okay, cool. So, in how have you kept streaming fresh for yourself?
The when I approached streaming, I made a very deliberate decision pretty early on to always make it so that the content was stuff that I wanted to be involved in. So I've never like done events that I wasn't interested in, never played games that I didn't want to play, and I've never done things or committed myself to things that I wasn't enthusiastic about doing. So I think that's been a big help in maintaining my drive to stream. You know, I've always woken up and I've wanted to stream every day, and I've had a lot of fun doing it, and I still have a lot of fun doing it. So
Do you believe that sort of had any sort of impact on your potential success in streaming, or
Yeah,
possibly?
I mean, it's possible that I could have more viewers doing certain things, playing certain games, not playing certain games. It really depends. But I think that your mental health, I think a lot of people devalue your mental health. You know, we can put a price tag on things like income, on things like viewers, on things like sponsors, on things like subscriptions, and, you know, all of these different numbers that we quantify, you know, the hell out of every single thing we do. But in terms of like mental happiness, people never seem to value that as much. Like, you know, if I could sacrifice $10,000 a month, you know, for more sanity, would I do it? A lot of people don't really seem to think about these things. So I'm okay for going a little bit of financial success to make sure that I stay mentally sane and I continue to enjoy doing what I do.
And so, what do you credit your success online with? What are some of the credits you sort of give yourself on your success?
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, I would say comedy. I would say like humor and skill probably carried my early streams a lot. Probably more so the humor than anything else. I was pretty good at Starcraft, and I think I'm a pretty funny person. I have a pretty diverse background too. Like I connect with a lot of my audience on a pretty personal level. I'm pretty open about most of my life, and I think I've had a pretty diverse set of experiences that have let a lot of people relate to me in different ways, or just provided entertainment for others that couldn't.
Okay. And what future goals do you have in streaming? Because I've heard, especially you've talked about doing sort of a podcast thing or doing some more IRL, but like, are these still things you're sort of thinking about doing, or what other things are you sort of in the midst of?
The number one goal for myself, the way that I view my life, is I try to make sure that I'm always happy. That's always the thing that I maximize for myself. So I don't have like I say that because some people have like drives for like maximum career fulfillment or establishing a legacy for the ages or being the best or the biggest in something, and that's not really my goal. You know, I really enjoy doing what I do, and I kind of hope to just continue to do that. You know, I kind of point myself in certain directions where maybe I'll try to work with other larger streamers. Maybe I'll take YouTube a little bit more seriously. I'm trying to build an Instagram right now, and I'm probably going to be doing some sort of podcast in the future, you know, soon. TM, I keep saying that. But yeah, you know, I kind of have things that I point myself at, directions that I slowly work towards, but I don't have a huge ambition to pursue like any particular project or achieve like any particular goal at the moment. I'm just kind of chugging along.
Okay. And so you were part of the esports scene, especially with Starcraft 2. So how did that initially come about? Sort of seems like a very niche sort of field to get into.
Yeah, I hate you for saying that. The reason why the reason why it seems niche is because of how young you are. You're a Zoomer. Wait, how old are you? My old asset?
Oh, you can. I am a solid 18.
What does that mean?
18 years old.
Oh, okay. You said you were solidating?
Solid 18, you know? 18, it's a solid number.
Oh, a solid 18. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you said
That is correct.
solidating. Oh, my bad. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so, geez, 18. Okay. Man, I started streaming when you were 10 years old? You were 10 years old and I started streaming. I have a son that's 7. Jeez. Anyway, sorry, to get back to your initial question, you asked why StarCraft 2? It seems kind of niche. So back when I started streaming, StarCraft 2 was the largest game on Twitch. It was just in TV back then, and then it became Twitch. But that's kind of where I started. I was the biggest streamer in the biggest like game, and that's where I kind of grew initially for how people recognized me early on for video games. But yeah, StarCraft 2 was like the thing to do back then. It was the biggest streaming game. It was arguably the largest esport. Some people who play 1.6 might argue with that in European scenes, but yeah, I mean it made sense back then. It was a pretty big thing. Now it's kind of niche, but.
Okay. And did you go into it sort of enjoying the competition of it, or are you just really enjoying StarCraft and you just thought it would be like a natural progression?
When it comes to competitive games, the competition is very important to me. That seems a little redundant, but like I can't play any game against another person if there's not a ladder involved. I can't do it. I can't like normals in League of Legends is boring, non-ranked games. I can't. It's really hard for me to do. But if you throw a ladder on it, I very much enjoy that aspect of grinding a ladder. That being said, I always prioritize my stream over being like a tournament level player. I did a couple tournaments, and at points in my career, I was pretty competitive. But for the most part, I think I focused on tournament related stuff. If I'm playing a competitive game, there has to be a ladder, and the competition is something I enjoy. But I prefer to focus on my stream, I guess, over being like the most competitive person.
Okay. And you studied music when you were at college. And so, what were some of the key things that you've sort of taken away from it? Not necessarily from music as such, or even maybe so, but some of the key lessons maybe that you learned through your time studying.
I mean, in terms of life lessons, anybody that's thinking of going to school and working full time, I would highly suggest not doing that because it destroys your college education. College is so much more than just showing up for your classes and trying to scrape by. If you're going to school for that and you're paying the tuition every year and then working full time, you're shortchanging yourself out of so much experience. Firstly, that's just related to life things in college. In terms of like my major specifically, I guess you get a lot of kind of cognitive psychology out of music. How do you learn things? How do you practice things? And that's kind of helped a little bit in terms of gaming stuff. And then it's just kind of broadened my knowledge base. It's given me an appreciation for music and the ability to speak about it in a little bit more depth if we ever talk about things on stream related to music.
Okay. And so, what genres slash sort of artists do you really enjoy listening to?
That's a really hard question. I listen to everybody says this, but I mean, I really do listen to almost everything. I mean, like I've got anything from like Japanese math rock to Kanye West and Kendrick Lamar to different. There's like a million different things. Video game music, like orchestral stuff. I don't know. It really depends on the song, I guess.
Okay. And obviously, you have talents in seeming multiple instruments. So, do you have any sort of goals within the field of music, or just personal things about sort of whether it's just sort of learning a piece or sort of producing your own music?
I used to work with DAWs a long time ago. I used to do some stuff in Ableton. When I move, I'm probably moving soon to a different state in the U.S., probably in about 2 or 3 months. I hope to buy an electric guitar when I move because that's the instrument that I really want to learn. But that's the only musical-related goals that I have right now, I guess.
Okay. And so for networking, it seems like you seem to be a sort of master, I guess, at networking because there's so many sort of connections over the years that you seem to make, whether good or bad. And so, what's your usual either way it comes around or tactic in connecting with people?
The networking stuff is something I only actually started a few years ago. My networking in the first like 4 to 6 years of my career was really bad because I was pretty much of the mindset that if I don't like somebody, I'm going to roast them as hard as possible because I don't value networking or connections. That hurt my career a lot in the early days. I guess as of recently, I don't know. I feel like I'm a pretty social person, and if you hang out with me, we generally will get along. So most of my relationships have grown pretty organically from that, I think. I have Lily to thank, Lily Pichu a lot, because we hung out a lot in Taiwan, and then she connected me to a lot of different people that have been pretty instrumental in me connecting with a lot of other people. For instance, I met the ex-CEO of CLG through her, and then I've formed connections with a lot of the people in her, I guess like her gaming house, like Offline TV, because of her, so.
Okay. And is there anything you wish to do better in terms of sort of how you talk to people or networking or more events you possibly want to go to in that sort of regard?
I just keep doing what I'm doing. I maintain email contacts with a lot of people. I'm kind of collaborating with more people on Twitch now in terms of, podcast stuff that I'm on or other people that I'm talking to or playing games with. Yeah, I'm trying to grow my tendrils out more. It seems like people that people that operate within these groups of streamers tend to be more successful and have more fun than people that don't. So yeah, I'm trying to reach out and do that a little more.
Okay. And alrighty, let's get ready for this section. So let's talk about sort of your sort of debate history and discussion sort of videos. So I know you've said in the past sort of that you don't find any of the sort of quote unquote debates successful.
I don't know if I'd say successful. Maybe fruitful would be a better word, but sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Fruitful, yeah. Well, so how would you define fruitful in that case?
I don't know. My idea of a debate is two rational people will come together with different conclusions. Those two people will analyze and take apart each other's premises to find out which ones are the most agreeable. And then after, the dust clears and the premises have been kind of laid out and settled, then both of you agree on whatever conclusion would logically follow from said premises, assuming you're stemming from the same value systems, which I think most people more or less do, whether they want to admit it or not. But instead, it ends up just monkeys throwing food at each other across, the table, and then people screeching and jumping around and throwing things at each other and calling each other pedophiles, and it doesn't seem like any actual real argumentation happens. So.
And so, because I was looking through because you're talking about like the poop flinging with the monkeys, and it seems like a lot of your sort of on your YouTube channel, the most successful, some of them were some of your biggest sort of poop flinging ones.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're good for viewership and they're very entertaining, and I enjoy it. I like it. I enjoy the conflict. I very much like verbal, exchanges are very fun for me. I enjoy it a lot. So, but I mean, in terms of like good debate, if like a college professor was like, oh, you say if I go back to school and he's like, oh, you said you've engaged in a lot of debate online and you're in school to help you, excel at that. Can you point me to some of your better debates? Like, I wouldn't be able to link anything to like, I'd be like, no, I haven't started yet. Actually, I'm sorry,
Well, you could say you've got a 6-hour conversation with 5 other people calling you a pedophile. That's a solid one, That would be a.
It doesn't seem like I think he would send me to like therapy instead of any college classroom to deal with that.
Most possibly. And so in that case, this might seem a little bit sort of superficial or a little bit naive. Is sort of if you one enjoy it and two gain some sort of success from it. Financially, why have you sort of decided to blacklist a lot of those people?
They started to like the fans of the political people. So politically, I've evolved significantly over the past like 8 years of my life. I went from being an edgy high school libertarian in my early 20s to where I'm at now, which is probably somebody who's very socially progressive, still a liberal / capitalist, but more so like a social dem, soc dem or whatever, I guess, a social democrat. So as a result of that, I've been witch hunted by people on my left and people on my right very violently throughout my career. Maybe more so than most other people online. I'm not comfortable making that claim, but more than most, I would say. When the left people were witch hunting me, they were very ruthless in going after sponsors. They would go after sponsors, and then if my sponsors wouldn't draw me, they would go after clients of my sponsors. It got pretty insane after a while. People on the right, though, will not only do the same thing. Instead of saying that it's because I'm racist or misogynistic, they'll say it's because I'm a pedophile and I want to, do things to children. And then they'll go as far as to like make spam phone calls to the FBI and stuff, which is stuff that never happened to me on the left. Ordinarily, I'd always say that like I don't care because in some ways I don't care. But the problem is like I have a child and I don't know like if that stuff is ever gonna blow back on me in a really bad way. If like Nathan comes home from school and like the FBI shows up like we're here because we heard that you were a pedophile or something, and it's like it just gets very stressful, I guess, after a while. And that and then like the spam reporting across all of my media accounts, like my Twitter got permanently banned, I get spam reported, my Twitch account gets spam reported, my YouTube channel, every video gets reported, like on a bi-monthly basis. I get, emails from YouTube saying like, hey, we got a report, we manually reviewed this, but it's okay, blah, 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 like every month, the political people on the right are just ruthless. And at some level, I can't give up too much to engage in these types of conversations. Like for instance, like if I would have known that like my Twitter account was at stake, I don't think I would have engaged with a lot of people that I did. I never realized that it would get like that deep where I would actually get like permanently banned from a platform like that. So yeah, it's just the amount that you have to put at stake to engage in conversations with these people to some extent isn't worth it, at least not for me, or I would say not for anybody,
Okay. And so with your I'll just ask. So I sort of heard throughout the time you sort of done sort of appeals to try and get your Twitter back. So do you think anything's ever going to come from that?
I mean, it basically comes down to whether or not I can get a conversation with like one or two people that I know at Twitter that like operate in my circles. Because I'm pretty sure that my account shouldn't, like if a human were to look at it, I don't think it would be permanently banned. I'm pretty sure like an algorithm caught some tweet and then like some, guy in a call center or something reviewed it. It was like, oh, click perm ban. And then that was it. But yeah, I'm not sure. I would have to, I don't know. It's hard to say. Maybe at TwitchCon or BlizzCon, we'll see.
And so you just mentioned also before about sort of the toxic sort of communities that have sort of gone after you. So what would you say out of all of those ones would have been like oh shit, what have I stumbled into here? This one is definitely the worst. Which one of them would have been for you?
I mean, the alt-right people are definitely the worst. They have like no holds barred or whatever. Like they'll go after everything. Like they were trying to dox like my kid's mom and everything, and they do it like openly, like on public forums and stuff. So yeah, those guys were easily the worst that I've ever dealt with.
Okay. And there's it's very interesting sort of to hear sort of you speak in terms of sort of you call yourself sort of very it was egotist. Oh, I can't remember. I'm not very much into terms of
Descriptive
philosophy.
egoist, but yeah.
Yeah. So sort of you focus more on sort of yourself, and a lot of your viewpoints come in sort of how it affects you. And you say you're very would it be? I don't necessarily use the word narcissistic, but I'm not too sure if I've heard that term.
Yeah, I mean, I would describe myself as pretty narcissistic, yeah.
Yeah. And so you use these terms, however, whenever you talk about sort of topics, etc. So whether it was on sort of politics or philosophy and different fields, you sort of are very hesitant to sort of jump to sort of any sort of conclusions and whatnot. And it sort of seems it's a very interesting thing because a lot of sort of narcissists I've spoken to are very self-confident with their sort of beliefs and whatnot, and the knowledge they have, and will apply it to a large field rather than with you. You sort of are very hesitant to do so. So I'm just going to ask, sort of, why do you think that is?
Why do I consider myself narcissistic, or why do people apply, things too broadly that they don't have the authority to do? Which one?
Well, I guess it's sort of, I guess you can sort of why you think you're narcissistic, but also in terms of why do you hesitate to sort of, when you classify yourself as a narcissist, to also jump to conclusions?
Sure, yeah, I understand. I mean, I'm not okay. I'm sorry, I didn't know that this was like super serious. I'm not really narcissistic at all.
It doesn't have to be,
yeah.
man.
No, I understand, but just in terms of answering the question, I'm not really narcissistic at all. I'm actually incredibly humble. I'm more humble than most people. I'm the most humble, to quote Trump. I think I have a very realistic view of myself. A lot of people consider me narcissistic because I scream it when I present opinions to people or I go to argue with people. Of course, I present things incredibly confidently. To be, let's see how many edgy checkboxes we can hit in this conversation. Have you ever seen the show House?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So like I would consider myself to be, when I'm approaching a conclusion, I'm somebody similar to House, right? And that I will lay into it as confidently and as whatever as I think I can. And then if it's wrong, I'll abandon it and I'll move to the next thing. So I think that confidence that I exude in conversations, I think people will mistake for narcissism. They see me, berating some dude because I think that he's not prepared for a conversation. Generally, they aren't. Or they see me screaming at some guy because he's making up information or doesn't have any data. Generally, they don't. And people will mistake this like, oh, he must think he's always right about everything. But it's not true, actually. If I meet somebody and they do know more than me, I'll immediately step back and, take time to kind of figure out what knowledge I'm missing. And it's happened before, just recently I spent 6 hours on stream reading about tariffs because I had a conversation with a guy who had more in-depth questions for me or challenges that I wasn't prepared to answer. So yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm narcissistic at all. I think I have a really good image of myself. I call myself narcissistic. Maybe I shouldn't actually. Maybe I won't going forward because people kind of view me that way because I think I am very confident in verbal exchanges. But yeah, I think I have a pretty good view of myself. The second part you answered is why people are so confident. Applying or making extrapolations that they shouldn't, taking a little bit of data and pretending they know a lot. I don't know why this happens. It happens to people that are far more successful than me as well. The way that I view life, I guess, is that I understand a great deal about very few topics. I would say maybe competitive Starcraft 2 and maybe music, and that these are things that I would consider my knowledge to be 99th percentile on. For Starcraft, I was very, very, very good at the game. Maybe not compared to world players, but compared to other normal people. And then for music, I know a great deal about theory, composition, and whatnot. Maybe not compared to other, like college-educated musicians or professional musicians, but compared to the average person. So seeing the level of depth that exists in both of these fields, I'm hesitant to assume that I could know as much depth in another field by just reading a paper or reading an article. And I've got so many fans and so many people that watch my stuff. I'd be really scared of saying something that's just completely wrong. I make a statement about, oh, I read this thing about economics, so this must be true. It's like, okay, well, hold on. There are PhDs that have spent their life arguing over these topics. Maybe it would be really dumb for me to pretend that I have a full grasp on it and I'm just going to make this assertion. For some reason, there are people that get really good at one thing, though, and they think that they know everything about everything. I see this happen with people like Jordan Peterson or Elon Musk. It's very strange to me that these are people that know a great deal about a certain field, but then they think that they can talk about every other field, and it's like very clear that it's like really cringy how completely off they are in other ways. It's like, I don't know why some people do that and why some people do what I do. It's hard to understand that. I'm not sure.
Could also be because I understand very much in terms of when you're speaking with sort of like Jordan Peterson and a lot of other like Elon Musk as well.
Hmm.
Do you think they also apply different sort of they apply the same sort of uh, thinking towards different topics? Because you also hear something like I don't necessarily know, sort of like I guess Neil deGrasse Tyson. He'll apply the same sort of like sort of like theoretical thinking to a lot of topics which seem sort of very out of place. Do you think that also may have a part in it?
Can you elaborate on that? What do you mean by what sort of philosophical thinking?
Well, sorry, we'll say sort of theoretical. So he'll sort of, I don't know whether or not it'll just sort of be a very, it's very hard for him to communicate, I guess, in a sort of a, I guess, layman sort of way in terms of, uh, for example, on the Joe Rogan podcast, he was talking about third, fourth, and second dimensions on traveling in roads and whatnot, and how to, the only way we can go from here is traveling in the fourth dimension. However, on sort of like an engineering perspective, it was like, well, we possibly can use other dimensions. We can still utilize the third dimension over the fourth.
Hmm.
However, he just sort of not necessarily sort of. I don't know whether or not he chose to sort of just sort of promote the fourth dimension or just didn't think that was possible in third, even though there's probably other ways to do it. Do you think that possibly that sort of educated in sort of one sort of strand of sort of thinking could also affect the ways that they approach other topics?
Um, yeah, I mean, it could. To generalize this a little bit, what you're talking about, it's where somebody will learn something, like one thing, and it seems like that becomes the very lens through which they view the world. I'm always very hesitant of people that do that. Yeah. Actually, the most relevant example, do you know who Paul Stanitz is? He was on a Joe Rogan podcast. He's obsessed with mushrooms. Yeah.
Yep.
Did you watch that talk?
Yeah, I watched bits and pieces of it.
Okay. Well, so like when he's talking about like, hey, mushrooms, contain this thing called psilocybin, they affect the brain in this way. That's really cool. But then when he started saying that like every single world problem can be solved with mushrooms, it's like, okay, I feel like you're maybe this is one thing is tainting your view of the world a little bit too much. It seems like you're a little hard on this one thing. When anybody specializes in like one thing and then they feel like that one thing is the answer to literally every single one of life's problems, it makes me take a step back and question the objectivity of that person,
I don't know. I get that very much. So we're talking before, especially with the sort of the shit shows of the debates you had. Do you think any of those conversations you had that any of the people sort of walked away and thought, actually, you know what, you may have had a point, even though may have been a shit show? Do you see or sort of any development?
Very
in certain
few have.
people's world?
Very, very few have. There's two huge problems. One is that a lot of people come away from these debates thinking they've won, even if they've gotten completely crushed, just because they're so bought into their narratives that they can't fathom, using any type of reasonable thought process. So, for instance, there's a guy called Count Dankula. He's the Scottish dude that got arrested or fined or something for that. He taught his pug how to do Nazi salutes. I had a conversation with that dude related to gathering data to form an opinion about something. And his idea was instead of studying something, you could just watch hundreds of videos on YouTube, and that'll give you a good view of, some sort of statistic or it's a valuable way to collect data. And he came away from that conversation thinking he was totally correct in how he analyzed it. Yes, I mean, there are people like that. There are other people that if they get blasted hard enough, they kind of walk away and they either don't talk about that topic as much, I notice, or yeah, that's it. I've never. It's very rare. I think people are so financially invested in their own positions too. Like you've got to keep in mind that these are people with maybe 1 million or 500,000 or 250,000 subscribers on YouTube. For them to totally change their politics, even if they were vested in an argument, would cause them to suffer great financial hardship as well because they're so bought into their narrative. So I think that the intellectual integrity of these people is probably severely compromised due to the fact that they make a living off of their political opinions as well, which is sad because it stifles your ability to grow politically.
No, that's very true. And are there any people in sort of, I don't necessarily want to say skeptic, or even let's go a little bit broader. Even let's include the intellectual dark web in that one. Is there any sort of people that you would want to talk to in those fields?
In the dark web?
Oh no, what is it called? The intellectual dark web, which has
I don't. I would have to go and see who the people are in this.
It consists of like Ben Shapiro.
Yeah,
Dr.
so
John
Shapiro, I'd love to talk to. Stefan Molyneux, I would love to talk to. Jordan Peterson, I would love to talk to. Hopefully, like some of these become available in the future. After I lost my Twitter, it became really hard to make contacts with any of these larger people. Like before, when I had my Twitter, I was able to reach out to people. Like I had conversations with. Do you know who Martin Shkreli is?
Yes.
Yeah. So Martin Shkreli, Lauren Southern. I'm sure you've heard of her. Yeah, like other large people as well. Like the guys from Epic Mealtime were DMing me. I had contacts with like Keemstar, with just all sorts of like really large people. And then losing that Twitter like killed a lot of the momentum that I had. Oh, JonTron, that whole conversation came about because of Twitter. You know, Sargon of Akkad, these people. I lost a lot of momentum when that Twitter got killed. So
Again, might be a superficial question. With using Twitter, have you ever considered using sort of like a quote unquote assistant sort of person, a person who sort of represents you, or would that be against terms of service?
I mean, like I've tried making the business one from a new IP and like VPN'd it and new email and everything, new phone number, and it didn't work. I mean, I guess I could have like a representative, but it's not really the same. At that point, like, what's the point? Like, I don't want somebody tweeting like, oh, you know, Destiny's going live. You know, if I can't like verbally or textually, I guess, you know, kind of aggravate people online to get them to come on and talk, or, you know, post my political opinions about it. It's not really the same. It's not really worth having, I don't think.
Okay. And how do you deal with the blatant lies that are thrown against you?
I don't know. I haven't figured it out. These things are called lose-lose-loses situations. That's how I kind of analyze them. You can either ignore them, and then they usually fester and grow because you're not addressing it. You can either address it and deny it, in which case people will say that you're hiding something because you know, obviously you deny it, you don't come out and give any more information, and it makes you look even worse. Or you can start to divulge personal information in order to prove the actual allegations wrong. But generally, the people making these allegations already don't care about the truth. There's a really good quote by, I always forget it, but it's something how like fascists delight in playing games with the truth, and as soon as you destroy one point, they'll gleefully move to the next without any concern whatsoever for rational discourse. I don't know, some edgy quote like that, but I mean, it's true. Like, you know, I've got people that say all sorts of crazy things about me, and as soon as I show up with some evidence, like, okay, well, look, like, you're actually just completely wrong, they don't care. They just move on to the next thing. Or when you release personal information, they start attacking new stuff in your new personal information, so you have to divulge like your entire life in order to do it, and then you've lost then because you're giving more personal information. So there is no good way to deal with people that have, I mean, how do you deal with somebody that's abandoned truth? I mean, like, what do you do? I don't know what to do with that person. I mean, aside from like physical violence, maybe. I don't know how to like actually like make a person not be crazy. I don't know. If you figure that out, shoot me an email. I would love to know it.
Yeah, no, let's set up a, you know, anarchist society and flip those people out, you know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe.
I think that's the only way.
Sure, yeah. If you want to go full, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And so there's a lot of sort of people, like especially younger sort of demographics. I know a lot of my friends, especially, sort of, I guess, quote unquote, fall for sort of like the skeptics, the sort of right leaning videos that sometimes even pose sort of as left leaning. Why do you think would be the biggest reasons that they sort of fall into these sort of channels and whatnot?
Why do people fall into like the political identities they fall into? Is that what you're asking, or?
More specifically, in terms of sort of like the people who, like the skeptic community, sort of, why do you think people sort of fall into that, like that demographic, that it will even sort of move sort of hard to the right, sort of even towards sort of alt-right?
I mean, it really depends on the person. Like, there are so many different paths right now to it that it's very scary. I mean, we could talk at length about any of the individual pathways. I mean, like, so two that I can think of, there was a big connector from Gamergate to being like fascist, I guess, which seems strange, but a long time ago, do you know anything about Gamergate?
Yeah.
So this is contentious, but I'm going to be very, very charitable. And I'm going to say that when Gamergate started, it seemed to be that people were kind of rallying around this cause where gaming journalists were really, really bad. They just were horrible. Like game journalism was really bad back in the day. And there were people that I know aren't like insane, like Total Biscuit, that kind of sort of, you know, championed the cause a little bit, although he never came out and said it, you know, specifically. But that movement got hijacked very quickly by what I would characterize as anti-SJWs. So people that think they're into politics, but literally the entirety of their existence, the entirety of their political ideology can be summarized as whatever the SJWs do, I do the opposite of it. So if that means using racial slurs or homophobic slurs online, if that means hating on Democrats in the United States, if that means being pro-Brexit, I guess, because immigration and being pro-diversity is a PC thing, which is SJW virtues, like all of these weird political topics, like being pro-Trump, being pro-Brexit, got connected to these gamers that got like totally, you know, washed in like a running river, just got completely swept into this anti-SJW narrative that carried over and informed their entire political foundation that all of their views are based off. So if you were ever like a gamer that got into Gamergate, and then you found yourself on subreddits like Kotaku in Action, you probably found yourself, you know, getting linked over or moved over to the Donald pretty quickly after that, because it seemed like that was just the path that connected those people, which I think is kind of sad. And then That was the first. Oh, and then like another chain could be somebody like Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson just connects with a lot of pretty bad people. There was kind of a paper released a little bit ago, kind of showing how once you click through to one Jordan Peterson link, you get all sorts of other people that are a lot more shady than JP on YouTube as well. That paper had some problems, but I think in general it remains true that once you start associating with Jordan Peterson on YouTube, you get linked to all these other videos by people like Stefan Molyneux or people like Steven Crowder or these other more crazy conservatives, and then into the Lawrence Southerns and stuff like that. And I think that people that follow Jordan Peterson, I think that if you're white and if you're a man, I think maybe you can get the feeling that society is kind of leaving you behind because all of these other people are starting to get their narratives now. You've been the default NPC or the default character in every video game and every movie and every form of entertainment and every part of culture and society for your entire life. And now when, movies like the Black Panther come out where they might make fun of a white guy and there's black people, or, other movies are being released and there's women instead of men, and you see all of these other people who are being empowered and, theoretically rising to the level that you were, you kind of get the feeling that you're losing ground. So I think Jordan Peterson gives a voice to that kind of discontent that a lot of younger, maybe adolescent or mid late 20s white men feel, and then they get connected into kind of those weird anti-SJW movements that way because Peterson unfortunately can't help himself but give his horrible takes on political things as well. Sorry, that was kind of wordy.
No, that was great. That was a great response. And speaking, because you mentioned earlier just before with the Gamergate, have you heard the I don't know how closely you'd sort of keep sort of following Sargon of Akkad's sort of latest conquest, what he's trying to achieve?
Are you talking about the UKIP stuff?
Gamergate 2.0.
Why? Because he's losing relevancy and other. I don't understand. For what? What? Because there's too many women in games now, or what? I don't even know. I haven't followed this at all. Sorry. Sargon is so stupid. Have you heard the conversation of him with the UKIP guy, where the guy was basically saying like, why did you join the UKIP party? And Sargon was like, oh, I just wanted to make a statement. And the guy's like, okay, you could have just voted for us. Like, are you gonna go to house to house and actually like help? And he's like, oh well, no, I don't think I should have to do anything. And I was like, okay, well, why did you join our thing? Yeah. Oh God, Sargon is so stupid. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Finish what you're saying.
Yeah, he basically wants to do Gamergate 2.0, but he also was looking at eventually trying to conjure up a scheme to get Donald Trump to tweet that Gamergate did nothing wrong.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, Trump would probably do it if he got it.
Yeah, because he wanted the FBI to investigate it, and then because it seemed he seemed in a very sort of split mind. He was just like, I want to do it for the memes guys, but then he sort of seemed butthurt that Gamergate sort of got this bad rap, and he wanted the government to say, it's not that bad, guys. Come on.
Yeah, I haven't. I mean, it sounds like a Sargon thing to do, but yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get another Law and Order episode out of it. I don't know if you ever saw that or not.
No, what's in regard with that? Oh, did they do Gamergate with Law? Oh, I saw something.
Yeah, it was really cringy. Yikes. Oof.
Okay, and it's actually sort of I've spent sort of like the last couple of months sort of. Because the first time I saw you, I'm sort of relatively new, especially in your community, which you may have picked up on from my questions.
Mm-hmm.
But the first time I sort of saw you was in PKA.
Oh, yeah. Witty's podcast, yeah.
Yeah. And from like initial, and like how you spoke and how you talked about certain topics was very interesting, and sort of was like almost sort of like a breath of fresh air in sort of certain regards. But then when I sort of started watching sort of from your back catalog, sort of progressing through, especially your debate content, you've definitely become a lot more pessimistic about sort of how you sort of view sort of intellectual sort of debates, especially on YouTube or the intellectuals as well. And so where I'm getting at with this, I guess, is that do you regret a lot of those discussions and debates because of the view you're in now, or do you think it's important for yourself that you were just like it's better to know rather than to live in blissful ignorance?
No, I mean, I for almost everything I've done in my life, I valued widening my horizon. Even if it was a very unpleasant experience, it's kind of illustrated how much more there is to know about everything, and I would prefer unlocking an uncomfortable truth over living in a more kind of blissfully ignorant state. So, I mean, I'm grateful that I've done it, and it's kind of helped to shape my opinions. I've become a lot more cynical and pessimistic about people in general, but I mean, I'd rather that to be more realistically grounded than to have an unfounded optimism, I guess.
Okay. And I guess just sort of on a personal note, when the sort of the JonTron sort of thing came out, especially, it seemed very much that a lot of the sort of YouTubers, in regards to the sort of what happened, sort of downplayed sort of his comments, and not that they don't necessarily sort of believed him, but sort of downplayed what he actually said.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think that it came from sort of?
You're fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Do you think it came from a place of sort of defending him as a person, as him as an identity, or as a position in him being sort of heavy right leaning, especially in terms of his semi-racist turns?
I mean, it's really hard. You're asking me to dive down into tunnels of ignorance that I can only fathom.
Well,
There's a lot of different things at play. One of the things he said, that he's a friend, so some people will defend their friends no matter what they say. Other people were genuinely fascist, like genuinely like authoritarian, insane, nationalist, ethno-state people that defended him. Those are probably the minority, to be fair. I don't think most of John's fans are crazy ethno-state race realist guys. But although they were there, spurring on those conversations, a lot of people were just fans of his content and wanted to excuse everything he said because they didn't want to deal with the implications of what he said. Other people are just like gamers who think everybody should have the right to say whatever and nothing should matter like that, and they downplayed everything. I mean, there's like a huge variety of reasons why people would be incentivized to defend everything he said.
Okay. Because especially with certain people like Psychic Pebbles, who he's done great content and whatnot, but came at you very, very hard and very direct.
Yeah, he was very butt mad after the conversation. He was needling me on Twitter like days and days after, like sniping comments and stuff, trying to get me to say something to him or do something to him because he just wanted to go really hard and then rile the whole animator community up against me too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess that was actually very interesting. I really appreciate sort of going into that sort of questions, and you've gone through them as well, but it's just very interesting to hear again. But let's go into, I know you're a big fan of sort of hypotheticals.
Sure.
Okay. So this might be easy for you or whatnot, but I've tried and sort of asked this one sort of with certain people in certain groups. So let's say, with this hypothetical, let's say you died and surprisingly there was an afterlife, and God was there and he sat you down and he went, look, Stephen,
Mm-hmm.
the Nazis were kind of right, They were, in fact, they didn't go hard enough. They should have just killed everything that wasn't Aryan blood. But he goes to you, you know what, Stephen, I like you. I like your stream. You're pretty chill dude. So I'm gonna send you back to Earth, and you can live your life out and come back up here and go to heaven. However, you have to let everyone know there that their life, unless they're Aryan, is completely meaningless and deserve to die and go to hell. Would you, in that case, then go down to Earth and tell everyone the truth? And when I say tell everyone, like you just basically say the words and like everyone's like got this sudden realization of truth? Or would you rather take the hit, go to hell, but know that humanity will live in blissful ignorance?
Oh, who listens to this radio show?
This is more sort of a question for me. This won't go on the radio. I'm going to show you this one.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, like, I'm okay, but it has to be to an educated audience because this is a really bad soundbite. I mean, philosophically speaking, I'm considered a moral anti-realist. So that means I don't believe that actual morals are things that exist. So, for instance, when somebody says murdering someone is wrong, that wrong is just a kind of a social construct that we have that exists in the minds of humans, but I don't think that anything is truly right or wrong, like reducible to some sort of fact of the universe. Now, if I were to meet a godlike figure, I would assume that this godlike figure would have authority over all domains, even those that I wasn't capable of gaining knowledge about, such as morality. So if a godlike figure told me that, well, one, morality exists, and that two, he can make statements about morality, and then three, he were to divulge some of that information to me, I would have to accept what he's saying as truth. So if there was a God who was capable of determining virtue and he told me what was virtuous, I would have to act in accordance with that if I were to be a consistent person. So, I mean, yeah, I would do whatever that being were to tell me to do. I would have to. It wouldn't make sense to do anything otherwise.
Interesting.
Yeah, for me to be contrary to that, it just doesn't how could I let's say that I exist on a wall with a bunch of other people, and all of us, the other side of the wall had a color to it, and we don't know that color because we've never walked to the other side of the wall, and it was impossible for us to travel to the other side of the wall. We all lived our lives as though the color of the wall was blue. So we decorated the room with blue. We wrote books and papers about how the other side of the wall was blue. And then one day I hear a voice from somebody on the other side of the wall, and they knock on it. They're like, "Hey, Steven." And I'm like, "Yo, holy shit, you're on the other side of the wall. What the fuck? That's insane." Or what the hell? Or heck. Sorry. What the heck? That's insane. And the guy was like, dude, I'm over here.
This is going.
Okay, sure. The guy was like, dude, the wall over here, it's orange, you know? I would have to believe that person. I mean, who am I, as somebody that's not ever capable of being on the other side of the wall, who am I to contradict that person? If he says it's orange, I can't just, I mean, I could go along with the rest of society knowing that I'm lying to myself, but if another person was capable of gathering that information that I could never know about on the other side of the wall, I would have to take that person's word for it. So that would be like the analogy that I would draw to a God person who is capable of understanding morality, of moral fact, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I very much understand that sort of perspective as well. And it's sort of interesting because it has, when you initially sort of, like, most people I would assume, or what I've talked to especially, would just immediately be like, "Oh no, I just lie. I'd take the path to hell and whatnot."
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's somebody that has no view, that has no developed view on morality at all. Then, because they're the ultimate moral anti-realist, right? Like, I say that moral fact can't be known. Most people claim that moral fact can be known, but then if somebody that's actually capable of generating moral fact, of creating moral fact, tells them that their moral fact is in disagreement with what an omniscient person says, then they're like the ultimate. They're acting in ways that, that's just the most wrong position you could ever have. Like, yeah.
I guess it's just sort of like, I sort of almost perceive it as well. With sort of like, I can see you, Stephen, going up to a little child with brown hair, sitting him down and going, "Look, you're fucked. You're going to hell. That's it."
I mean, if that's what God says, I mean, he would be the only one capable of understanding virtue. Yeah.
Oh, that would be beautiful. That would be a beautiful clip right there.
Yeah, sure, maybe.
And I guess this might be a little bit of a bland hypothetical now, considering what we went through. Is if you had 3 wishes, what would they be?
I don't even know. I don't like wish for much at all. Like, if I want something, I usually buy it. I get like, how about like if I could be like a god at music, if I could play every instrument or whatever, that would be cool. If I could like live forever, I would want to be immortal. That would be cool. Obviously not like getting old and I can't move when I'm like 90. And then, I don't know, I guess infinite money to do whatever too.
Okay. So, I guess we'll move on to some very sort of random sort of personal questions. And so, if you could put your life into some real world stats, what would it be? And we'll go off sort of D&D.
I can't do this. I just said I was humble. If you start asking me to rate my own stats, I can't do it. What's the next question? Okay. I have a high amount of charisma and a decent amount of intelligence. That's all. Yeah, I'll go with those 2.
Yep. Okay. And how would you say you've dealt with sort of, I guess, fame in the real world?
I mean, I think pretty well. Like I said, I think I have a very good view of myself. I've got a pretty realistic assessment of myself. I still love seeing fans and everything when I go to events, when people ask me for like autographs or pictures or, to get hugs. It's still cool. I still appreciate that a lot. And I mean, I'm really genuinely thankful for everything that I have right now. Like the fact that so many people, pay money to watch me or subscribe or whatnot is a pretty mind-blowing thing still. So yeah, I'm pretty grounded in all of that.
Okay. And have you had any bad fan experiences?
Yeah, plenty. But not as bad as like I guess some of the girl streamers get. Usually mine are in the form of either cringy emails or people trying to dox me on 4chan or something because I banned them from somewhere.
I was more thinking sort of like real life, sort of.
Nope, nothing super fucked or bad in real life.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing super bad in real life. I've had kind of like cringy interactions, I guess, but nothing like really bad now.
Okay, because I was speaking to Quentin Reviews the other day, if you know him. He basically was telling me that his worst fan experience was a fan followed him into the shower at the gym to talk to him while I was trying to have a shower. And I was curious to see if, since you've had sort of much longer time on the internet than him, if there was something similar. But it seems like you've sort of kept a very clean life.
Yeah, no, nothing like that. That would be pretty weird. No, nothing like that.
Okay. And what would you say would be your biggest current fear in life?
Probably dying right now. That's some scary stuff, dude.
I guess that's an easy answer. Okay. Alrighty, all right. I I want to end on something. So there's been a big thing about sort of YouTube fights, and you're a streamer. You're not as much a YouTuber, you're a streamer. And what's the biggest thing on stream now? Battle royales.
Mm-hmm.
So hypothetically, let's say, I don't know, top 200 streamers fall into a pit. All right, you're one of them. How would you? We'll go off multiple things. What do you think would be your tactics in this little stream? And this is not sort of lethal. We're talking about highly powerful sedatives. It'll put you to sleep, but may give you brain damage. Who knows? Put you in the pit, and you basically have to try and beat everyone else to win. Let's say, I don't know, a good turkey sandwich. So, what would be your tactics in, and how well do you think you would fare in a 200-person arena?
Is there like more than first place rewarded, or?
Because
that's real important. Because if there's a reward past first place, then you would start coalitioning really hard with people, right? You would have to convince people that the only way to guarantee a higher spot is to work together, right? But if there's only first place, that would be really hard. I mean, you could probably still play it anyway. Like, the chance of you making it that far are going to be hard. We can settle it later with 30 people. But yeah, I don't know. I'd probably go to all the people that I have connections to and try to convince them to work with me. I could start with Lily because I don't think she'd have the guts to kill me or trank me. So I would start with her and then work my way through the offline TV people. Yeah.
Okay. And where do you think you would ultimately end up? Because, and also, who do you think would be the bottom and who do you think would be the top?
I have no idea. I'm not prepared for a question like this. The bottom would be like super controversial people. So like Trainwrecks and Mitch, because half of Twitch wants to kill like either one of those people, so those people would probably be going down first. And then in terms of people at the top, I don't know, would be whoever was able to work together with the most people, the most well-connected people, probably.
Okay. All right. I'm not even gonna like entertain the idea of a sort of second and third prize. This is for one solid turkey sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, people don't want to work together. People are going to be like, I want that turkey sandwich so bad, I'm going to kill this person. That's how it's going to be like. Okay, this turkey sandwich is like amazing.
Okay.
So you can't work as teams, otherwise you're done. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So from because you've got some guns, you've probably got some aiming experience, you've probably got some sniper katana action going on your side. So where do you think you would fit in that regard?
I have no idea. I don't know how many people have like airsoft experience or whatever in real life. I mean, like, I know how to fire a firearm. If other people don't, I would have advantages over all of them. I'd imagine I'd have advantages over most people. You're talking in real life, right? I imagine I have advantages over most people in a real life environment because I don't think most people have fired any firearms before.
But, yeah, definitely real life.
Yeah. So, but then, yeah, I don't know about past that. Like, I'm not sure. I mean, it could come down to getting unlucky too, right? I think I'd do okay. I would hope I'd do okay.
No. I'd be very terrified of, I don't know if how well, I'd be terrified if I saw Tyler 1 in that regard. I just think he'd just run after me.
Maybe.
He'd just probably eat someone in that regard. I don't know. And, well, I think that's sort of all my questions that I have today. So thank you very much, Stephen, for joining me. We've had a bit of a hoops and slides and bings and dings throughout the way, but I hope the people of Australia appreciate what you had to say.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot for having me, dude.
Yeah, no, I very much appreciate it. So thank you very much. And if you want to give a little bit of a shout out to where people can sort of catch you on social media and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm Destiny on Instagram or Destiny on YouTube, and then Destiny on Twitch. And if you go to my website, destiny.gg, you can see all the links and everything at the top. So, yeah.
Awesome. So thank you everyone for listening, and hopefully tune in next week. Alrighty, thank you very much, Destiny. I guess sort of, now that we're sort of up and running, I've sort of, especially with this interview thing, I'm just sort of more because you sort of talk very much about sort of the political spectrum and whatnot in terms of how to deal with those things. If I was to sort of wanting to go a lot more sort of expanded in terms of how I interview people, how do you think would be sort of the best way to approach sort of a sort of balanced thing without sort of giving people a free pass on certain topics?
I mean, you can't, unless you're like super equipped to go hard, you can't really do it on your own. You could set up debates between two people that you think are equally qualified with topics set out ahead of time. But I mean, platforming somebody who's like a hardcore, conspiracy theorist in a certain regard, you're never going to be able to responsibly challenge that person on your own without doing a fuck ton of research beforehand.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, anyway, it's been a true pleasure. And what time is it? It's like 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah, not too late. 12:30 right now.
Oh, 12:30. Well, I guess I will leave you to the rest of your stream. I'll give a shout out to anyone who, because I do have a very, very small social media presence.
Mm-hmm.
So for those who are questioning sort of who I am, well, my name is Ryan Oseris. You can go to the Twitter handle, Ryan_Oseris, Oseris spelled Oseris. Instagram is Red Suit Interview, and my YouTube is also Ryan Oseris. I've talked to a couple of people right now. I've talked to Big Man Tyrone, Quentin Reviews, a couple of filmmakers, and yeah. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, then give me a look over, right? And it's Oseris for Osiris. But anyway, thank you, Destiny, for the conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye.
Yep, bye.